we were talking about inventory process, yeah? Because somebody was talking to me about what I would seem would be perceived or alleged resentments towards someone else that were being processed by the selfing, which is going to produce a lot of pollution, yeah? So we have a very simple practice we do in recovery, which is an inventory process, which what happens is you put the same information into the system, but it produces an answer that's not yours. In other words, it's sort of like the fortune doesn't come out of the self-centered gypsy's mouth in the little thing. It comes out of its ear, let's say, and it's a much better answer. So most people who at any bar today or any cafe know who they're mad at and why. They do, right? I resent that motherfucker for doing this, yeah? Everyone gets to those 2 points, but there's no relief there. You just get to be right, yeah, by making others wrong. And it doesn't, you don't get rid of the resentment or the anger. You don't. You can't dump it on others, yeah? It doesn't work. You can't throw it off you by projecting. It doesn't work. This way, we take it a little farther, where you just ask, well, what part of your basic agenda that yourself is running, which is your instinctual agenda as a body, yeah? Your need for emotional security, financial security, sex, this and that. What part of that is being affected by this behavior that someone's doing, yeah? And then we take it to another column, which is, well, what's your role in all this? Because we say in recovery, you'll invariably find that you made a decision based out of self that puts you in this position to be hurt. So in other words, if you investigate, you'll always find that there was a decision coming out of self-centeredness that puts you in a position to be hurt. Yes? So when you look at your role in it, this whole little process of an inventory produces an answer, and the most beautiful part of it is it isn't your answer. Yeah? You put the same information in this process, it doesn't tabulate to what tabulates up here. It goes, you hit the button, and when it spills out, it ain't, oh, I'm right. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, those motherfuckers. Oh, this is justified. You know, this is I deserve to be mad at them. No, it just says, oh, selfishness, self-centeredness. That we think is the root of the trouble. Oh. So, what commonality in both those statements is the word self, yes? Selfishness and self-centeredness has self in it, yes? Look at the book, dictionary. Look up the word self in the dictionary. There'll be a hyphen, and there'll be about 90 different adjectives. Self-destruction, self-love, and after in the 90s, maybe like 15 that you'd call positive and like 75 negative. I mean, the game is way slanted in selfing. You're not winning, you know? So you have like 90 different attributes that self demonstrates. So these are the many ways it manifests in one's life, yes? So in recovery, we say, being convinced, which means to believe with certainty. Now I'm in my love part. I love recovery. I do. It's my tribe. I love recovery. I love it. Because I've seen so much suffering demonstrated by active alcoholism in people's lives. Yeah? People who, in a sense, without that drug or that drink in them, are quite cool people. Overnight, they're in hell. Just overnight. It's unbelievable. So here it says, being convinced, to believe with certainty, that self manifested in various ways. So if you look up the word self with the hyphen, you'll see some of the ways it manifests. Yeah? There's just some of them. Yeah? Manifested in various ways is what has defeated us. It's a beautiful statement because it's separating. It's saying self and us are different. Now, if you asked someone in this room what self defeated them, everyone would have the same answer. It would be myself. Yeah? My. Maybe not people who aren't alcoholic, but anyone in recovery would say it's myself. Yeah? So it's not the self that defeats us, obviously. It's the mind. It's the mind's act of being identified with what it's not is the basis of the defeat. Yes? That's what we're talking all day about. It's identification as what you're not, which sets up you for a defeat here. As that. You cannot be defeated, but as that you can seem to be defeated. Yeah? So self manifests in all these ways is what has defeated us. We will now look at its, meaning self's, common manifestations. That's what we do an inventory about. So we start taking inventory of the expressions in our life that are coming or issuing from self. Yeah? So if I'm not that, how are all these expressions getting into what I call my life? I must take myself to be that. And every aspect in my life, when it walks in, I never ask for its papers because I think it's me. My relationships, my drive for security, my ideas about finances, selfing. How does it have carte blanche access in my life? Because I take it to be me. Yes? And that's the only way that the defeat continues. So if I'm not that, yes, then I can be free of it. If I'm that, I've got to get therapy for it. I've got to try to socialize this thing. I've got to go into a program and live there for the rest of my life. I can't live on life on life's terms, yeah? I can't do it. I couldn't do it, identified as self. Why am I doing it now then? How can I be living life on life's terms when I couldn't before? What has shifted? What changed? The emphasis of self has changed. Yeah? So it's not freedom as a self, it's freedom from a self. I don't need any therapy for the self. I have to see I'm not that. That's the greatest therapy of all. Yeah? So, all right, being convinced I'm not, that self has defeated us, these are its manifestations, we'll look at our lives. And so what we do in recovery, we look at one statement called resentment, yeah? So somebody like today was sharing resentments they have about their ex-partner. Very common, yeah? Because now, someone who they were engaged with, they're not engaged with, but they're still engaged with, but in a very nasty way, in a sense, yeah? The idyllic way is over, but there's still an engagement, and they have a kid, so there's going to be a continued engagement. Yeah? And so resentments are festering, and the way we're processing them is the old selfing way, which is making them wrong, us right, disassociating, denying it, not feeling it. That doesn't fucking work. It takes up a lot of space. Yeah? It takes up your interest and attention. This is just a cleaner way to process what we can't process well. And while we're processing it, we're processing the expressions of self. The unfortunate thing is most people, when they're looking at the expressions of self, are calling it mine. These are my fears and my resentments and my acting out. They're not yours. You've been taken over. Nothing has ever been yours. You're not a solid thing that claims things. You're not solidity. You're a verb. Verbs don't have yours. Verbs don't have possessions. They're moving, yes? Moving. It's self. It's the sense of being a noun that claims everything. So people who are in recovery are pledging allegiance to disease in the practice of getting out of disease. They keep calling the expressions of self theirs. It's called the act of being identified as self. How can you expect relief if you keep claiming the problem is yours or as you?